Good afternoon, and thank you, Dr. Anindya Dev, for joining us for this session today. And we will just begin this session. Today is the last day of the FTP, and we have yet another important topic to cover today, which will be led by Dr. Anindya Dev. So before we begin this session, let me just give a brief introduction of our person today. So Dr. Anindya Dev is working as an assistant professor in the Department of Mass Communication and Media at the Central University of South Bihar. With 12 years of teaching and research experience, he specializes in health communication and social change. His research is dedicated to the empowerment of the voice poor. His impactful work in rural areas of Bihar has significantly contributed to the field of development, communication, and social change, fostering awareness and justice among the localities. As a prolific researcher, Dr. Dev has authored over 15 publications in renowned national and international journals. With a remarkable presence in national and international conferences and impressive publication record, he is always fostering insightful discourses in the field. His participation in prestigious international conferences, the DC Health Communication Conference in Washington, D.C., and the South Asia Communication Association enthusiastic involvement and contribution to the advancement of communication studies at global stages. Dr. Dev's insightful session will provide participants with a rich blend of theoretical depth and practical application in the social science research. So thank you once again, Dr. Anindya Dev, for accepting our invitation and joining us this afternoon. I welcome you all once again, and I also welcome Dr. Dev for this session. So over to you, Dr. Dev.
Thank you, madam, for giving me an opportunity to present my research work. I am a little overwhelmed and privileged to receive the invitation, and I hope I'll fulfill your expectation, and especially the expectation of the students. And I'll try to make it little interactive, a dialogue between participants with the resource person, and I also invite some questions. I'll also dive into the epistemological foundations of research, both quantitative and qualitative, and the blend of this quantitative and qualitative approach. And further, I also try to give a brief overview of some practical insights from my already completed research projects and which are also upcoming with respect to current topic. How I have blended mixed method research in my ongoing projects, and there are certain projects which are qualitative in nature, and there are certain projects which are in quantitative in nature. So what actually triggers, motivates, drives the research scholars to give a better understanding, better solution to the research problem? Now I am going to share my slides. Is it visible?
Yes. Yes, it's visible.
Okay, since it is online, so generally I do not prefer PowerPoint presentation for two reasons. Number one, which is little satirical. So let me, since research classes seems to be appear to be very little monotonous and boring. So I'll try to make it little interesting and quite satirical. So I generally do not prefer to introduce PowerPoint presentation because I believe the resource persons who do not have power in their presentation, they go for PowerPoint presentation. Or otherwise, if they do not have any point to say, they go for PowerPoint presentation. So I generally ignore because in my early career, what I learned from my supervisor, not to go with the classes, some support materials, it will make you handicapped. So since it is the order of the day, blended mode of learning, we have no other option rather to accept the PowerPoint presentation. So I apologize to take the support of PowerPoint presentation, and let me introduce the topic in a while. So my area of presentation today is integrating qualitative and quantitative approaches, designing matched method studies, case studies, and practical approaches. So the first slide gives an overview that these three approaches, qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method, are not distinct actually. I hope that all the participants have come across a plethora of lectures, qualitative and quantitative, but there are certain things which is still maybe required to give you more light in this aspect, because there is a conflict, there is a huge tension between two schools of thought. Qualitative researchers think that their researches are prime, supreme, and they are the best. On the other hand, or in contrast to this, quantitative researchers think that that school of thought think that their researches, their research methodologies, web data collection, everything is supreme or took precedence over the qualitative schools of thought. Now, when the contention, when the confrontation is going on, another schools of thought which emerged in late 20th century, or it gained popularity around 1980s, the mixed method approach. So qualitative and quantitative approaches should not be viewed as rigid, polar opposites or dichotomies. Instead, they represent different ends on a continuum. A study tends to be more qualitative than quantitative, or vice versa. Mixed method approach resides the middle of the continuum, as it integrates elements of both qualitative and quantitative approaches. Now, this is a very interesting slide to differentiate between quantitative and qualitative aspect of research. Now, think about a person. Since we are in social science research, we are dealing with human behavior, their attitudes, their perceptions. So when we are dealing with human behavior or the people, then what are the attributes attached to it when they expose to data and when they do not expose to data? So one of the leading professor, Arthur Asa, in his book differentiated quantitative and qualitative in two different tables. One called data man and another is data free man. So if you look at the table, there is information, and in contrast to this, there is interpretation. That means in quantitative research, we are collecting large number of data. Okay, but in data free man, where there is no data at all, that is which actually perpetuates or echoes the voice from the qualitative schools of thought, they talk about the interpretation of the data. Data is not important, it is important, but the interpretation of data is much more important than the simply collecting information in form of data. Now the next point is the mean, the average, that talks about the empiricism. The numbers plays a very, very important and pivotal role as far as quantitative researchers are concerned. But qualitative, which is again the data free man, talks about the meaning. What is the meaning within the text? what is the meaning within the empiricism, what these numbers talks about. So interpretation.
Sorry, Dr. Dev, I'm interrupting. Can you please switch to the slideshow view? The visibility would be better. Sorry for interrupting.
It's okay. Is it okay, ma'am?
Yes.
Now, the next point of differentiation is n is equal to infinity. Here, more number of populations or the units from where we can collect data is infinite. Although there are many methodologies like sampling procedure, both probability and non-probability sampling, we used to define our population. But the whole population is very heterogeneous, anonymous, large, differentiated. But for data-free men, since it is qualitative aspect of research, we concentrate only one. So they said, since we are doing research on only one person, quality is ensured. But they said, see, quantitative researchers criticize the qualitative person that it is quite obvious and visible that you are analyzing the data even for one sample, but there is no guarantee that you will give generalization. One sample size cannot be generalized to the whole population. Since we have huge number of population where you can do doing either survey or experiments, so we can generalize the data for the whole population, but you have no generalization. So that means your reliability and validity is actually suffering. So that is the quantitative versus qualitative aspect. Again, ingenuity in design. When we are selecting the research method or when we are designing the research in terms of quantitative research, then it is very difficult to select which methodology or method of research actually gives answer to my research problem. So research scholars may commit some mistakes. So genuinity is little bit of questionable. But the same thing when qualitative schools of thought answering to the research problem, what is the most lacuna, the most loopholes and pitfalls in terms of analysis of qualitative aspect of research is ingenuity in their analysis, because since sample sizes are very limited, if it is so, then interpretation and meaning generation from qualitative research cannot guarantee the validity of the validity or reliability of the analysis. Interpretation of different people varies. So that is the basic difference between data men versus data free men. I mean the quantitative aspect versus qualitative aspects. Now the another table talks about the subjects. Here subjects means respondents, which is synonymous. Quantifiable, we quantify the subjects. All the quantitative research talks about the numbers, the empiricism, the epistemological foundation of quantitative research is post-positivism. That means they talks in terms of numbers. So they quantify the everything, attitudes, behavior, trust, everything they quantify.